Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so awful. The Denver Broncos. Terrible. Is there no end in sight? Orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, soon to be joined by Andrew Mason, who's wrapping up Nathaniel Hackett's press conference, which is so bad that he was asked about Deion Sanders. The very first question for Nathaniel Hackett's press conference after yet another loss is about the CU Buffs' new head coach. This is how far the Denver Broncos have fallen under the watch of Nathaniel Hackett and a soon-to-be ending watch. We can all be sure of that. There is no way that Nathaniel Hackett can save his job. It's just a matter of when that business decision is made and who else goes with him. I think this is something very important to look at and to consider. If you're a Broncos fan, you're frustrated, you're super pissed off, and I get it. I'm right there with you. I'm done being angry at this team. I'm done being mad at, they can't even beat Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley's a good backup. Tyler Huntley can do a lot of what Lamar Jackson does. And I don't think that says anything bad about Lamar Jackson. I think it says a lot of good things about Tyler Huntley, who, has athleticism, has that strong arm, and can make those mistakes, as we saw with that pick to Justin Simmons. And then whatever the hell James Prochet was trying to do, throw a pick on that trick play with the Baltimore Ravens. But the Broncos hold the Ravens to 10 points and they lose 10-9. Sounds about right. The Baltimore Ravens did not have a lead in that game until 25 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Sounds about right. The defense, which plays out of their mind for the most part. I'm not going to fall all over myself with the defense, but I'm also not going to blindly just blame the defense for not closing it out. They can only do so much in every game, in every defense. They can only do so much. So I think it's unfair to point fingers and be like, the defense, shut it down. I saw some super fan. I say super fan because the guy's like a popular Broncos fan that likes them because of their colors. And he was like, the defense doesn't know how to close. I'm like, the offense doesn't do anything to support them. Like, knowing football is different from being a super fan because you like their colors. The offense doesn't do anything to help this defense whatsoever. And I'm not going to let him off the hook. Let him off the hook. Tyler Huntley went after Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain is a fantastic player, and I'm not going to judge him on the game against Devontae Adams. I'm not going to judge him on the game against DJ Moore. And Baltimore really doesn't have anybody. Devin Duvernay, right? Like, they don't really have anybody, a wide receiver, to judge Surtain against. All I know is this. An inexperienced backup quarterback came in and went right after him and had no trouble because Surtain's playing off so much. That's something you need to clean up. You need to fix that. And if you're the Denver Broncos, you got plenty to fix. But sitting here and pointing the fingers and blaming everybody, it's a waste of time. It's an absolute waste of time. And if you know football, you know that the defense is struggling to close out games because the offense doesn't give them any sort of help. Zero help. It might as well be just defense. Go get a little quick Gatorade break. Get out there and play defense again. Because this stupid offense goes 3 and out all the time because Nathaniel Hackett doesn't know what he's doing. And Russell Wilson isn't playing good football. There, I got both of them in. So patience is needed in Broncos country. I think patience is needed with this team and what they're going to do when they choose to do it. The question then becomes, who else is gone besides Nathaniel Hackett? That's where we're at. Hackett is going to be gone. I cannot envision a world where Nathaniel Hackett stays on as head coach. I just cannot. I have heard some things about the Walton Penner Group and their intentions, and I want to urge to you, the fan base, these owners hear you. These owners respect you. They love you, and they will make a decision on who goes and how many go, and that decision will be big. And that decision will be based off their business model for what they want the Broncos to be. But do not think for an instance, because we get a lot of overreactions, we get a lot of emotion, and I get it, right? I understand that fans are going to be emotional. This Broncos team sucks. In the 6 years, they've been terrible. But this ownership group, from what I've heard, is ready and willing to look at all options. I don't want to say too much more. I don't believe in little birdies because I believe little birdies are PR people and PR people will tell you anything. And in fact, I think, let me just put it this way. Again, I'm revealing a little bit too much, but I really don't care. Let me put it this way. I think there are people around the building that need to probably stop talking trash about Russell Wilson. That's a guess. If I see these people, I may tell them in person. But there are people around the building that are kind of anti-Russ. And, well, you probably shouldn't be that way. That's just a guess. So I'll let your minds run away with that. But there is so much Game of Thrones stuff going on right now with the Denver Broncos. But I know this, and again, in listening to things and to understanding and to having rational thinking, I want to urge to you Broncos fans out there that change is coming. And it may be not as fast as you wanted, because Nathaniel Hackett hasn't deserved to be the Broncos head coach since the bye week, Jaguars game, whatever, like whatever. I don't even care. Like, just tell me a day when Nathaniel Hackett should have been fired, and I'd agree with you. Week 2, fine, done. Like, I don't even care. Like, that's a done conversation to me. It's boring. Nathaniel Hackett's like Weekend at Bernie's, right? And then just kind of prop him up there at the podium. Hey, Hackett, say some things there to the audience, because he's dead coach walking. I mean, we know that. It then becomes who else goes with him. It then becomes how deep do these business decisions go? How long have I not been able to speak English? Business decisions go. How deep do these things go? I think it could be quite significant from what I'm hearing. Now, it could be kind of what we all expect. Hackett gone, Peyton not, Wilson not. It could be more than that. Everything is on the table with this ownership group. But I want to start this show not complaining about Nathaniel Hackett. Happy fun baby star. Like, it'll be a chapter, not a chapter that you want to remember, but it'll be a chapter in the Broncos history, the Nathaniel Hackett chapter. It'll be tragic because this season has sucked and Nathaniel Hackett will be gone. But I wanted to start today's show. And again, Andrew Mason should join us as soon as the Nathaniel Hackett Happy Fun Baby Star Weekend at Bernie's press conference is done. But I definitely want you guys to know, I can't tell you everything, unfortunately, but I want to do what I call a Lassie bark. I'm going to tell you enough, and you're smart enough to figure it out the rest of the way. Because that's, I think I actually heard that first from Edward Snowden, who's talked about Lassie barks. Like, you can hear Lassie barks in the media, where it's not, I can't tell you what I know, but I can give you enough. What's that, Lassie? Timmy's trapped in the well? Like, like you can do that. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say this, like, the ownership group hears you. The ownership group understands you. The ownership group loves you and respects you. And the ownership group is going to make changes. And the ownership group is not happy. Not happy at all. So you're unhappy with the Denver Broncos. The ownership group, allegedly, or whatever, per source, is that what you say, right? Per source, the totally obvious thing of the ownership group not being happy. It's like the report about Nathaniel Hackett in the locker room. Like, he's not lost the locker room. Well, there's guys in that locker room that don't really like him. Okay? Because he's not a good head coach. He's the nicest guy ever. I don't want a nice guy. If you can get it, that's great. I want a great coach. You know what I mean? And what is funny is people like misunderstand, like Bill Belichick. I've been around Bill Belichick a little bit, like at Shula's when it was open. I think it's closed in Indianapolis. But anyway, when Shula's was open, and you see my buddy Mike Lombardi was there with actually Josh McDaniels and Belichick drinking a little bit. So just to go over, say hi, like, it's kind of what you do at the combine. You wander around, stumble around drunk. I mean, stumble around with a drink in your hand, whatever. And the funny thing about Bill Belichick, because everyone's like, oh, he's so mean. And yeah, except when he's away from the podium, he's like a cut up. Now, he's not like a ham, okay? Like, he's not a clown or whatever, but like, Belichick's got a sharp wit. He's a funny guy. But when he gets in front of the podium, yeah. And when he's in front of his players, yeah. He's kind of like a little gruff, a little rough. But football is all about overweight men and windbreakers yelling at you. And if you can't take a chewing, this ain't the sport for you. So get out of here. If you're that guy who's happy, fun baby star and wants to be everybody's best friend, you can't be everybody's friend and have this work. So rather than lose my mind about Nathaniel Hackett, he's going to be gone. Okay. I don't know when. I wish it already had happened. And I hate saying that because it's somebody losing their job. And I had much different hopes. I mean, I said 12 wins for this team. I said, because people are like, they could make the playoffs. And I'm like, well, if they make the playoffs, they're a Super Bowl contender. So say Broncos, say Super Bowl in the same sentence. That's fine. Totally wrong. Okay. So I'm not ever going to shy away whenever I have an analysis on a player like Tariq Woolen, right, who has his 6th interception of the year, by the way, should have been drafted, was the pick right after Delarian Turner-Yell, who I think made a tackle on special teams yesterday. So you got a special teams ace. Way to go, George Payton. And Tariq Woolen, who's 6'4", runs a 4.2 at corner, has 6 interceptions. I don't know, seemed like a pretty good pick to me. Isaiah Pacheco, who's starting for the Chiefs. You could have picked him instead of Montrell Washington. So I say all these things, and I say it going like, I'm always going to talk about my misses, and I learn more from the misses than the hits. But when I said 12 wins, I believed it. I don't want to see this team like this. When I said 12 wins, when I said playoff run, when I said Super Bowl, and yes, I did say dynasty with the Walton Penner Group because I believe that's what they're aiming for. Well, let's bring in Andrew Mason today. It is Orange and Blue today. It is 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time every day. And Mace, you had to go do the Nathaniel Hackett press conference, and we appreciate you much. And I open it up with your tweet that said, Hackett's first question was about Deion Sanders. This is where we're at.
It's where we're at. I mean, and the thing is now, for the first time in a long time, when it comes to football, the Broncos have to share the stage. And They have to share the stage with a team and a personality that is far more compelling than what they have right now. Even though certainly not successful, you figure success will come, or at least improvement's going to come. Next year, unless there is something remarkable in terms of what the Broncos do, probably with bringing in a new head coach, then the story is going to be, in this market, it's going to be CU and Deion Sanders.
Right.
This is going to be one of the rare times where the Broncos are number 2. And oh, by the way, it's not a great time to be number 2 to have to share the football stage, because you've got a championship hockey team and you've got a potential champion NBA team over at Ball Arena right now. So, it's an interesting spot for the Broncos, and yet at the same time, as we'll get into, I'm sure in the coming weeks, building for the future and tearing down may not be the worst idea here.
Right. And that's something we will discuss. It is Monday, so we kind of got to do the game recap, Mace.
Yeah.
So I will allow you to take the floor, my friend, and just give us your thoughts on this loss to Baltimore and Tyler Huntley. I talked about it a little bit to begin, and that tearing down conversation is a big one. So we got to get to it. But it is Monday, and we owe it to our viewers to do kind of a game recap. So what were your thoughts from the Baltimore loss?
Well, I saw some precincts on the Bird app, Twitter, and elsewhere suggesting that the defense was to blame for this. That is the biggest bunch of poppycock I've heard.
I started the show with that, dude.
It's terrible. It's lazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not understanding just how hard it is in a game where defense has been legislated down to hold down a team, even the team with a backup. And you look at the Ravens, what it took for them to have that touchdown drive. It took 2 penalties and 2 fourth down conversions.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it was drawing an inside straight. I mean, look, if it's 10-9 and the touchdown the Ravens get is in the second quarter, people aren't saying, oh, the defense let down. They're saying, man, defense played great. But because it happens to be the last drive at the end of the game, the defense might be at fault. That is complete bullplop. I'm glad you're on board with me on this, because if you weren't, we would have had probably a knockdown drag out over this, because I'm sick of seeing that right now.
Yep.
I'm absolutely sick of that notion. This offense is terrible. Okay.
Yes.
It's absolutely terrible.
Preach.
Three of the 9 points for the offense came when Justin Simmons picked off Tyler Huntley. Great play by Jonathan Cooper to flush out Huntley and force an errant throw that Simmons picked off.
Church.
Yeah, you give him the ball at the 40-yard line, and the only reason you score is because you're in great field position. The offense goes 3 and out, and you get 3 points. So basically, the offense generated 6 points on 2 field goals. That's pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic. This offense is getting worse. I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's getting worse. They're down below 14 points a game now in production. And I've got a stat that I'm going to be pumping out here on denverfan.com in a bit, but simply put, if they don't get to 16 points on Sunday, they will have had the least productive 17-game stretch of offensive football in the history of the Broncos. And this goes back to last year as well. So it just shows you Nathaniel Hackett didn't start the fire, but he hasn't done anything to fight it. I feel like I'm making a Billy Joel reference again. This is just, I mean, and I actually feel a lot of empathy for Nathaniel Hackett having to get up there and answer questions.
It's like Weekend at Bernie's. Like, we all know he's done, and they just prop him up there every week. Now, I will say this, Mason. I'll tell you off air who it is. You might be able to do the math yourself and figure it out, but there's a very prominent, like, Broncos super fan. Not a media member, but a super fan. Sounds like a V8. Anyway, he only likes the Broncos because of the colors. And he came out against the defense, so I kind of slammed him to start the show. I was like, hey, if you're some moron out there who only likes the Broncos because of their colors, and you say the defense can't close out games, you don't know football. Oh yeah, you're a super fan that doesn't know the Broncos and only likes them because of their colors. You don't know football. If you're saying, I thought Cooper played great, I thought Deshaun Williams played great, I thought Draymond Jones had some plays, Baron Browning had some plays. Were there some flaws? Yes, but you saw these playmakers, Singleton out there making plays, Justin Simmons making plays. Like, this defense can only do so much, Mace.
And oh, by the way, it's not like they don't have professionals on the other side. I'm going to sound like John Fox saying the other guys get paid too. I thought a huge play on that drive was when Tyler Huntley had that little deke right there before the pass as he's rolling to the left, and it gets Baron Browning just that little bit out of position, kind of going in the wrong direction. It creates a separation. And all of a sudden the Ravens are down near the goal line, right? I mean, that's going to happen. But the thing is, if your offense was any good, there'd be a margin for error, a reasonable margin for error for this defense. There is none because this offense can't score.
You have to play perfect. And you and I have watched enough football to know, and there's a tipping point in every game. You can watch a close game, and all of a sudden it's like that one mistake will cost the game. The Broncos defense has to be perfect or else they will not win because the offense is historically bad.
Yeah, and it's pretty much impossible for a defense to be perfect, right? In this day and age. I had the stat there last night. There have been 140 teams that have allowed exactly 10 points in a game in the last 5+ seasons, going back to 2017. Those teams are 135-5. Congratulations. The Broncos are one of the 5 that lost. All right. I mean, you allow 10 points, you've got 96% chance to win based on overall metrics over the last few years. 96% chance. All right. If you don't get it done, that ain't on the D. That's on an offense that can't move the ball. The funny thing is, Cecil, I actually liked some of the ideas early on in the game. I liked seeing 3 tight end packages, 2 tight end packages. That's probably the best thing. But what I still don't like seeing is, what does Albert O have to do to get back on the field? What's going on there? Because your receiving core is decimated. Cortland Sutton is day-to-day with a hamstring injury. And what we know about hamstring injuries being day-to-day, that means there's a decent chance he probably doesn't play next Sunday. So your receiving core is probably still going to be decimated going into that game. Why aren't you using Albert O as basically a big receiver? You're telling him, okay, you're not going to be in line. You're probably not going to have to do much in the blocking. We'll even probably basically take you out rather than have you try to block on a bubble screen or something like that. But just get him downfield and try to create some mismatches. I don't get it.
It's got to be personal. If you ask the question, it's got to be personal because Mike Gesicki is probably worse at blocking than Okuegbunam, and he makes plays for the Dolphins because Mike McDaniel doesn't put him in position to block.
I know, because Mike McDaniel understands that you play to a player's strengths. Like you don't ask them to do things beyond them, and that's something. Look, and you find ways to make talent work for you. I mean, I go back to 2019 and how frustrated I got with how they use Noah Fant at times. Like, why is Noah Fant one-on-one with Khalil Mack? That's just stupid, right?
Right.
Mike McDaniel seems to have a sensibility about things that a lot of coaches seem to lack. Another thing also, and this is something I was talking about with our friend Troy Rank, who contributes to our station, of course, and also works over at Denver 7. They cross midfield with a little over 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. A field goal basically wins the game at that point.
Yep.
If they get to 12, it's over. Ravens aren't scoring twice. And you get cross midfield, and all of a sudden you decide, this is a good chance to get Montreal Washington involved. No. You lose this 1 yard on that little end around, and all the momentum that you built up on that drive, it's
and wasn't the next play a throw to him that was off the mark or whatever?
It was third down, because second down,
okay.
Look for Dulcich, who was bracketed. I mean,
right.
The Ravens caught on to Dulcich basically being the only guy who could beat them, because by the end of the game they were bracketing him. You can't blame them. I mean, Dulcich, with Jerry Jeudy on a pitch count, basically Cortland Sutton not playing in the second half because of the hammy. It basically all came down to Greg Dulcich, and they knew it, and they adapted accordingly because they're a smart team. But yeah, why you're saying, hey, we got to involve Montreal Washington now? I don't get it. I mean,
it's like he was a first round pick, and I don't want to bag on the kid because he's a nice kid, but like I've never seen a bad player, a day 3 player who's bad, who's a rookie, get so much love. They just hand him the returner job, and then they try to force him on offense. He's not a playmaker. The kid's head is swimming. Is he quick and fast? Yes. Did he tear up Florida? Yeah. Guess what? You're not playing the Gators on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. Like if he's a first rounder, Mace, like we've seen it. Hey, they're forcing the guy, whatever. He's a 5th rounder.
Look, he's got some skills. He's got some talent. And I think you probably have to play the long game with him. But the way they're forcing him out there reminds me of how they used Isaiah McKenzie in 2017. And ultimately, then what happened? They cut him the next year. And people blamed the player when it should have been how the player was being used and guided. That is to blame. I think Montreal Washington, with patience, the kind of patience that Buffalo had with Isaiah McKenzie, I think he can become a player in this league, Cecil. I think he can become a helpful contributor, just like Isaiah McKenzie did. But right now, by doing that, they are not doing this young man any favors, and they're not doing the team any favors either.
Well, they're destroying his confidence. And
yes,
confidence is key for every player. If his confidence shot, he'll never be that guy.
It took Isaiah, 2 years to rebuild his confidence.
It humbled him, and I will talk about Isaiah, like in the locker room, Mace, you remember, like he thought he was DT and E because he hung around DT and E, and he thought he had that cachet. It's like, you don't, kid. You don't. You can't act that way. And so it really humbled him, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for a Khalif Raymond, who was always a really good kid, right? I'm happy for all these former Broncos that go out there and they make plays with other teams. Like, I'm happy for Isaiah McKenzie, but he had to be humbled. He never lost his confidence, though. I think Montreal Washington's head is swimming so much, his confidence is shot. I don't know if he gets it back.
And the thing is, and that's key, and that's why I think the best thing is to limit his use to low leverage situations or not where kind of the game and the hopes of winning are on the line for him, and let him develop slowly. I mean, look, there are a lot of reasons why I wish the NFL had a viable minor league like the NBA does with the G League.
NFL like Europe, they miss NFL Europe for offensive line play, quarterback play, and cornerback play. Your skill positions could learn so much from even a 7-on-7 league, dude, as a minor league.
I think it should be deeper than that. I think what should happen is, instead of cutting to 53 in a 16-player practice squad, I think every team should have 100 players in their midst year round and beyond. And then when you get to the start of maybe you have camp at 120, 130 guys, like back in the old days.
That sounds like the 90s.
Yeah. But here's what you do. You get down to 100 and you say, all right, we got 50 guys that are going to the Denver Broncos, and we got 50 guys that are going to our minor league club. Say we'll call them the Commerce City Broncos, and we'll have them play out at Dick's Sporting Goods Park after the Rapids season is done, right? And they're playing their games on Wednesday night. They're running the same offense. They're doing schematically everything the same. You have call-ups when you just like you see in the NBA, just like you see in baseball, right? You call up a guy when you need reinforcements. You're keeping guys healthy. I mean, shoot, you could even schedule it to where if the Broncos are playing the Raiders on a Sunday, you got Broncos 2 playing Raiders 2 on a Wednesday night, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they're getting practical playing experience. Like I think of how you watch other sports, and you watch. I'll give you an example. I thought about this with the World Cup. Matt Turner, the goalkeeper for the USA, he made a very good acquittal of himself. Those 3 goals, by the way, that the Ducks scored on the U.S. on Saturday, not Matt Turner's fault. That's one of the things that, for those who are just learning about soccer, the more you learn, the more you'll understand how few goals are actually on the goalkeeper. But I digress. Matt Turner had a Sports Center bottom 10 play 9 years ago when he was playing college soccer. So this guy has been kind of embarrassed and humbled by the sport. But what happens is in soccer, there are mechanisms at lower levels that allow somebody like him to play and get reps and get better. The New England Revolution signed him as an undrafted free agent. They loaned him out to the Richmond Kickers, who are now a 3rd-tier club. I believe they were a 2nd-tier club at the time in the USL. And he got reps. He got better. He got seasoned to where eventually he was ready for Major League Soccer. And now he had some big moments on the biggest stage on the planet. It took him a while to develop. I wish we had that sort of thing with football, because Montreal Washington, it's not doing him any good to be getting those reps at the NFL. He should be getting them in a minor league, like an NFL 2 or something like that. And it irks and it kills me, Cecil, that we don't have. And I know people say, "Oh, well, college football is minor leagues." No, not anymore. Really. No, it's not, because they're playing a different brand of football. It's different things. It takes a different equation to succeed in college football in the NFL. What we need is a true minor league that would ensure that someone like Montreal, who needs reps, who needs experience, can grow, because we see how it benefits players in hockey, baseball, basketball, soccer. It would have the same effect in football. And unfortunately, what happens is you put him out there and he's beyond his depth. And like you said, he loses confidence, and some guys never get it back. Sorry, that's my rant. It was my turn to rant this week on Monday. I apologize. Rant done. But the point being, this is not doing Montreal, the player and the prospect, any favors.
Not only is it not doing him any good, it's hurting him.
Yes.
Bad. Real bad. Ryan Moats is a player you'll remember from La Tech. Very talented running back. Very talented. Him. And I talked to his teammates, because he never worked out in Philadelphia. And I remember talking to his teammates like, "Hey, what happened to Ryan Moats?" And they're like, "Dude just didn't believe himself. Like, Andy Reid's offense was so much for him, and his head was swimming." And we're talking about a very naturally talented running back. And that's the thing. Like, if you make it to the league, even from Samford, Division II, if you make it to this league, it's not because you're a slappy. It's not because you can't play. It's not because you're not quick and explosive and fast and strong and everything. Like, your physical talent is there. The physical is so easy to see with Montreal.
Yes.
But if you ruin him, well, I guess this is per source, I'm saying the most obvious thing ever, Mace. If you ruin him, you ruin him.
Yeah. He may never get it back. I mean, Isaiah McKenzie, the thing that was lucky is he went to a place where they had the luxury of being patient with him. And they put him on a multi-year plan. And you see the results today. He's a very effective player on an exceptional offense. And they only ask him to do what he can do. You mentioned Mike Gesicki. Mike McDaniel only asked him to do what he can do well, plays to his strengths. This is just, and I know the Broncos, look, they're in a bad situation with injuries. I get that, but you have other guys. And oh, by the way, you can do other things formationally. Like, I go back to the point of, instead of going with all these 3 wide sets, go with an extra tight end and have Albert O serve as a big wide receiver. Go 3 wide, but effectively do it with Albert.
Why isn't O playing wide receiver? Like, especially with all these injuries, like, just trot him out there.
What's the worst that could happen?
It has to be personal. That's the only way. It has to be.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe I'm just deluded here, but I think Albert O is going to get to a different spot, and it's going to be a team that actually plays to his strengths and doesn't ask him to do stuff beyond his core competencies, and he's going to succeed. I really do. Yeah. And then you'll have to look and see, like, kind of like we say with Isaiah McKenzie and Khalif Raymond. Oh boy, those guys are good. Yeah, they were here. They were here, but you weren't patient with them.
Right. Well, Khalif Raymond's made some plays now.
Yeah, he could have been making those plays for you.
Clutch.
He could have been making plays for this logo right here over my shoulder. Could have been. Isaiah McKenzie could have been making plays for this logo right here. And They lost they lost patience. They put these guys in situations that were beyond what they were ready for at the time. I'm sorry. This really gets me angry because this was like a human level because I want to see the best for these guys. I absolutely do. I want to see them achieve their potential.
Right.
And when they get put in these bad situations, it doesn't happen and it kills me.
Mace, we'll save our big stuff for tomorrow. It's a can't miss show, to be sure, on Tuesday, because changes will be coming. And the way that I put it on Twitter, Mace, because you know what I know, we need to know how many there will be and when it'll happen. But I want to urge Broncos country, believe in the Walton Penner Group. They hear you, they respect you, they love you, and they will make moves. Now, how many of those moves? That's to be discussed, and that will be for tomorrow's show because we're out of time. Andrew Mason. He is Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey. Follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I've tweeted out the Darth Vader. I don't know if you saw it yet because you're trying to get set up for the show. Yeah. So take a look at it. I tweeted out the Darth Vader and I said, if this isn't Mace Denver's Halloween costume next year, we riot. So give me a like on that, my friend, and we will have a big, big show tomorrow. You do not want to miss. He is Andrew Mason. I am Cecil Lammey. This is Orange and Blue Today. Until the next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.